Good evening and welcome to the 6 p.m. City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, with the exception of Councilmember Lopez, who has asked to be excused. Before we begin, we'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance offered by Vice Chair White.
We've moved the flags.
And just kept one.
I know. Please stand if you are able and repeat after me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. We would ask that you join with us in a moment of silence. Thank you. First up, we have a couple requests to be on the agenda. The first one is we have Lacey Richards here from the Major Brent Taylor Foundation for the Weber Remembers the 9/11 project. Hello.
Sharon Bolos.
I'm not Lacey Richards.
Sorry, yes, you are not.
She could not be here. So I'm in her place. My name is Sharon Bolos.
Thank you.
I'm representing the Major Brent Taylor Foundation. And I'm here to ask the council if you would consider helping us in this effort. We are planning a Weber County-wide celebration or commemoration of the 9/11 tragedies. This will take place on September 9th through 11th. It will be held at the Weber County Fairgrounds in both of their exhibit halls. I just want to take a brief minute and tell you a little bit about what this is going to entail. So beginning in the parking lot, there will be a Touch a Truck event where children can experience military and first responder vehicles and meet some of their drivers. There will also be food trucks at this event. And then in the West Hall, there will be kind of a museum experience. And this is set up to take a walk down memory lane, and it will start in the 1990s. And as you walk in, you'll experience some of the pop culture of the 1990s to kind of take you back. And then from there, you'll walk through underneath the Ogden Bridge, or the Ogden Archway over the bridge, and take you into the year 2001. And then we'll have, the path will take us along all of the cities in Weber County and kind of introduce the public to each of the cities, some of the things that we are proud of, some of the things that we want the public to know about us. After that, you take a walk over the bridge into Manhattan, and you can see the Twin Towers, you can see the Statue of Liberty, and we walk into New York City. From there, we walk through a subway tunnel, and we start to hear the sounds of 9/11, and we start to experience what was experienced 20 years ago. Now, all of this production will be done on flatboards with pictures, photos. There will be a sound system. So it kind of has a museum feel, but it's sort of a walkthrough experience. So once we hear the sounds and see the sights of 9/11, there will be some separate rooms where individuals can go in and listen to recordings of some of the survivors and recordings of some of the experiences. The Brent Taylor Foundation has been hosting some recording sessions, and I think they have one more before this actual event. And people in Weber County are welcome to go and share their memories of 9/11, where they were, what their feelings were. And there will be spaces there where those pre-recorded messages will be able to be experienced by the public. So after this, as you leave the first assembly hall and go into the east one, there's what is kind of a reflection area. And this is an area where it talks a little bit about the war on terror, the hunt for Osama bin Laden, but it's also a place to reflect. There will be members of the military and members of police and fire agencies from the county there to thank them, to sort of take us back to how we felt on September 12th. And I apologize, I get emotional every time I think about this. We think about our country and how we all felt on September 12th and how united we were. And as we leave the first exhibit hall, We want the public to experience what they experienced on September 12th, to have those same feelings of unity and moving forward as a country and healing. So from the West exhibit hall, we go to the East one, and that's more of a hands-on experience. There will be things for the children to do. There will be pictures to color, letters to write, and there will be choirs singing and sort of a celebration of freedom and the things that we enjoy in this country. So what we're asking for the councils, the city councils throughout the county to do is to support us in the effort to advertise this event, to get it out to the public, to make sure that everyone knows that this is happening. There's a Facebook page called Weber Remembers the 9/11 Project. So if you find that on Facebook, you can follow that. They have updates all the time about what's going on. They'll have one more update about when and where you can go and record your feelings. And, I think I forgot to mention that in the first exhibit hall, there will be a place where the public can actually record their remembrances of 9/11. And all that will be stored in archives for generations to come, so that as we reflect on that, we can share that with our posterity. So, if you go to that Facebook page and follow it, you'll get updates on everything. There's also a link there where you can click on and sign up to volunteer. There are lots of volunteer efforts going on right now with publicity, with just organizing the event, getting all the people there that we need there. And so there's a lot of need for volunteers. So we would ask the council to help us push that out and make sure the public knows about it. One thing that was brought up in our last meeting was we don't want anyone in Weber County to wake up on September 12th and hear about this amazing event that they missed. We want to make sure that everyone knows and has the opportunity to attend and support. So are there any questions? I know that's just a quick, brief overview. There's a lot of information on the Facebook page, but any questions that I might be able to answer? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mayor Bolos. You wear many hats, apparently, don't you?
Okay. Next up, we have, it looks like Marlo Oakes, the state treasurer, and Dennis Johnson from the Utah Unclaimed Property. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Great.
Thank you. And thank you, Janine Eller-Smith and city leadership for your partnership and collaboration with the treasurer's office. My name is Marlo Oakes. I'm state treasurer, and I have with me Dennis Johnston, who is the administrator of unclaimed property. And unclaimed property really serves as the lost and found of the state. So a lot of people get separated from their money unknowingly. And after 3 years, if the business that might owe somebody money is not able to contact that person that's owed money, it ends up in our office. And we get between $30 and $60 million every year in unclaimed property. And so our goal is to help as many people get reacquainted with their cash as possible. And so there are many ways that, people lose their money. They might move or forget that they had money. We overpaid a medical bill, ended up with $100 that was sitting in unclaimed property. And so when I became treasurer, I claimed that, and with the help of Dennis. So anyway, I'm going to turn the time over to Dennis, and he'll go into a little bit more detail about what we've done here in Ogden.
Thank you very much, Treasurer. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've heard about unclaimed property, you've probably heard a lot of interesting stories. One of the things we were really passionate about is getting the word out about unclaimed property, that we are legit. We do have a website, publishes the names and dollar amounts for some, smaller dollar amounts, and where it came from for unclaimed property, so people can claim their money and get it back. Once you dig deeper into our website, we're asking for information like your name and your address and your social security number and things like that. And so people get a little worried, and they're like, well, you're trying to steal my identity. Am I going to have somebody scamming me after I go through this? Well, our website is secure. It's encrypted. The data is encrypted both at rest and in transit. And so it's very secure. We've never been hacked. We've never been compromised. And we want to keep it that way. So we're very diligent about making sure we keep it safe. But when somebody is owed money, they can go to that website and they can search their name and start their claim. Now, depending on the quality of the data that's provided to us, sometimes we can turn around those payments to them within a week, and they'll have that check in the mail very, very shortly. However, sometimes you're claiming for property that's might belong to a deceased parent or a grandparent or somebody like that. That's a little more complex. We got to make sure you're really the rightful owner, because there's a lot of people out there who I call fraudsters, who try to represent themselves as somebody who's owed this money. It's not really them, but they try to scam us and pretend that there's somebody that they aren't and get the money so that then it's not there for you to search and find for yourself. So what we've done is a number of initiatives, and we started with Clearfield City, and then we went to Ogden City, and thanks to Janine and Mara and others, we were able to take our data and match it against the Ogden City. Next slide. Which one? This one? There we go. Oops.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, we were able to match that up together and do an outreach for Ogden. Now, the reason that we chose Ogden is that a couple of years ago, we did what's called a geocode match of all the reported properties on unclaimed property so that we knew exactly where they were located. Because historically, we've not been able to really hone in on, like a legislator wanted to know how many people in his district were owed money and who they were so that they could help get their constituents to get their money back. So we would use some kludges of zip codes and things like that to try and get close to those lists, but we were never exact. Now that we have geocoding on our data, with the help of the mapping tool in the state of Utah, we're able to do this very interesting map. If you look at this, this is Ogden area. Now, the reason it stands out to me, we divided it into deciles based on census tracts. And we were looking for the lower income areas who could really benefit from this money. And those are coded a darker gray color. But if you look at the far left, that little green bar across there is just like so far out of the line of everybody else, all the other areas. We zeroed in on that one, and guess what? It's in your area. It's in Ogden, between west of Harrison. That little greenish area in the middle, that's the census tract that has over $3 million of unclaimed property reported in those addresses, and that's one of the lower median income levels of census tracts in the state of Utah. And so we thought, all right, here's a prime opportunity for us to get money in the hands of the people who really need it. And so this graphical representation of the data helped us zero in on those things that we never would have noticed before from just looking at regular tabular forms of the data. And so that's what helped us focus on that. And so then we reached out to Ogden. We matched the utility database against our database and came up with a bunch of matches. We sent direct claim forms to those individuals that were direct matches. Plus, we also mailed postcards to all of those gray census tract areas. Every door in those census tracts received a mailer from us, notifying them about unclaimed property, because people move. People are transient. And the people that maybe had that money reported in that address no longer live there. They live somewhere else, but other people have moved in. And so we do a lot of things to try and reach people and get their money back to them in their own hands. So I wanted to report to you some of the results of this effort that started earlier this year. As a result of that effort, we mailed out 6,000 direct mail postcards to your region. We have now returned. We sent out 320 letters, 6,000 postcards. Your city people published information about it in the newsletter and in the magazine, on social media. We did it as well. We appreciate everybody's efforts in helping us get the word out to let them know we are legit. This is for real. You can take us seriously. And as a result of that, we have now paid out over $349,000 to people in Ogden among 669 claims. Now, we still have 1,700 claims that are still actively being worked. In other words, we're seeking additional evidence or information from those reported owners. Those claims represent over $1 million worth of value. So there's still work to be done. There's still progress to be made. And we really appreciate the cooperation that you've given us and partnering with us in helping us get the word out to people, letting them know that unclaimed property is for real. And we're here to help you and get them their money back. It's a wonderful mission. I love it. Sometimes I say I'm Santa Claus 365 days a year because we passed out $36 million last year. But it was their own money. So it wasn't necessarily a gift, like Santa Claus gives. It's getting them their own funds back. That's what we're about. And we're passionate about that mission. And we appreciate your help and your support in helping us do that. Any questions?
Yeah. Do you have any questions for us?
I do, Chair.
Go ahead.
So first, thanks for passing out money. Congratulations on your recent appointment.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. But you mentioned a few times in your presentation about legitimacy. I want people to know we're legit. Just so you know, when you come here and you bring Brittany with you, we know you're legit. That's all legitimacy you need in this chamber.
Thank you.
Yeah. On One of your slides, you said there was 3.5 million in unclaimed property in Ogden as a whole, but that one census tract was just shy of 3.2 million.
3 million.
It was just over 3 million, I think. So is there that much concentration in that one tract, or is there more than that in the entire Ogden area with all of those tracts?
There's more in that wider Ogden area too.
How much is that total for all of Ogden?
Over $3.5 million.
Okay.
But it's concentrated in that one.
It's
not all
heavily
properties.
concentrated then, like almost 100%. Okay. That's what I was
It's
clarifying.
huge.
Huge.
That's why that bar was so far.
Okay.
And that's why we focused on that area.
Thank you.
Data-driven analysis, helps us
Right.
decide how to do things right.
And bringing a check definitely helps heal the wounds of taking Brittany. So
Yeah, I was just
That was
gonna.
before Treasurer
Yeah,
Rhodes.
that was my predecessor. So
I was gonna thank you as well. Yeah, I mean, I've never gotten my own money returned to me at a council meeting, so I really appreciate that. That's awesome.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for your attention.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Yep. Okay. Do we have Brian Waters? Yep. Oh, okay. Next up, we have the presentation and the Sunset Report for the Ogden Trails Network Committee. We'll have Jay Louder present first.
Chair Blair, members of council, Ms. Brown, we're really pleased to be able to come to you tonight and give you the annual report for the OTN, Ogden Trails Network Committee. I'm here to introduce the chair, which is Brian Waters. He'll be presenting the annual report. After Brian's done, I'll go over the ordinance changes and any appointment questions you might have. So, Brian, it's all yours.
Howdy. It's good to be here and have a meeting in person. Last year was tough for us. So yeah, we've had so far one committee meeting in person since COVID. So yeah, it definitely is different and it's nice. So with that, we'll get started. So I'm Brian. I'm the chair currently. Mike Goodrick, the vice chair, couldn't be here tonight. And Monty, who's our Parks and Cemetery manager, unfortunately couldn't be here as well. So let's see. Can I advance the slides here? Perhaps. We're trying right arrow. Oh. All right. Yeah, so Jay mentioned the ordinance. We do have a proposed update to that, and he'll talk about that. So our mission is to provide a world-class trail system for the betterment of Ogden and our citizens. Our city liaisons are Monty and Stacy Olson, and both of them are incredible, and I just want to recognize them. First of all, they really keep the committee moving forward and support everything we want to do. So huge thanks to them. Tonight, Mike couldn't be here. John also could not be here, unfortunately, but we do have Sissy DeWitt and Nick McMillan here with us tonight. So we just wanted to hit some of our significant contributions over the last couple of years since we were last here before the committee. We installed 5 new information kiosks. I've got a photo of that on a following page. We supported some ramp funds to kind of improve our uniform trail entrances and trail signage. And we installed totems that kind of continue that uniform styling for just kind of a consistent experience for trail users as they move about the Ogden Trail system. In planning and development, kind of a big thing that we're excited about is the trail counter network. So we've been growing that network every year, and that's giving us actual data that we can use to kind of quantify how many users we're getting out on the trails so that we can kind of understand where our popular trails are and what kind of benefit the city's actually getting for trails. And that information is that data is getting stronger every year that we have it. We opened the Trackline Bike Park. I know Marcia was out there at the grand opening, and that thing has become a huge hit. It's out in the I forgot the name of that business park that we've created, but it's out by Envy. Yeah, and the Trackline. Yeah, is that the name of it as well? Sorry.
Goes by many.
Yeah. So, man, when we first started laying that trail out, it was like a very blighted area and lots of transient camps. And since the trail's been built, it has turned into a very popular spot for families and kids. I mean, there's like 20 people out there every evening, it seems like, and mostly kids out there riding it. So we're really proud about how that turned out. We hosted a professional trail system training course last year. We brought in a former U.S. Forest Service employee that provides consultation for trail management organizations. And he gave us a 4-day course on not only like how to get out and lay out a trail and build a trail, but also like what it looks like to actually manage a trail system and have objectives for managing an overall system. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we had about 4,500 hours of volunteer work in 2019, and then only a small decrease in 2020, 4,360. So we continued to have pretty strong showing even into the pandemic year. So here's some of those trailheads we talked about. So those big kind of like flagship trailheads there on the left, those are really nice. And they kind of help just kind of symbolize the experience that we want people to have when they come into our trailheads. And then we have the information kiosks that we've built, and those have a map so that people can kind of understand where they're at and where they're going. And then the trail totems help guide people along the trail. And we've made these all uniform throughout the Ogden Trail system so that people have a kind of a consistent experience. This is our trail counter network that we talked about. So we have 15 counters, and I think we just got our additional 7, so 23 counters now. Let's see. The thing that I find pretty interesting is the River Parkway is far and away the most popular trail. I mean, it's right downtown. It's, this nice big wide pathway. It's huge. It gets heavily used, and people get a lot of value out of that one. Bonneville Shoreline Trail is also extremely popular. I don't think that's really shocking to anyone here. Super popular trail, and Ogden's well known for how good our portion of the BST is. I think it's probably some of the best along the Wasatch Front. And then another kind of issue to point out is 2 of the most used segments of the BST actually cross private property. So TR Guest Ranch, we're having over 150 people a day, and then Rainbow Gardens is averaging over 110 people a day. And so those are both on private property.
Are those electronic counters? How does that work?
Yeah, they're infrared. So they're just a small little infrared box. And yeah, we try and place them in locations that we can get accurate count of the number of people passing by, but that aren't super obvious, because sometimes people think that they're cameras or something, or some sort of surveillance, and we've had some vandalism. So we try and kind of make them a bit discreet. But yeah, if you kind of pay attention, you'll see them when you're out there on the trails. In planning and development, the Trackline Bike Park, just a couple photos from that park. Over $250,000 invested, $70,000 from SIP, $20,000 from McKee Foods, $100,000 from the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant. So phase 1 was great, huge success, and we need teaming with the city for phase 2. So we need planning and business development to help us to shape phase 2 and get that underway. And we have been talking with Brandon Cooper about that, so they're aware that we're ready to push forward. Volunteer work, I wanted to highlight this little project. This was on the Bonneville shoreline above 27th Street. Super eroded hillside. We've done a project in the past to try and mitigate the amount of erosion that's happening with some special landscape netting and seeding that was directed by the Forest Service, because this is actually on Forest Service property. And then we coordinated with the Forest Service to design and install this rather simple looking retaining wall, but it's not simple. It took a lot of volunteer hours to build it, and even more volunteer hours to coordinate the design and implementation with the Forest Service. So ongoing work, I mentioned the training. So the trail system assessment is a direct outcome from that training that we brought in last year. So what this is it's an evaluation that volunteers on our committee are doing to comprehensively understand where we're at with our current trail system and where we need to improve and where the trail user demographic is going. Like what are our needs of our trail users? Trail users are changing. We now have high school mountain biking, which is huge and makes a big impact on trails. I mean, it's awesome to see a lot of kids out there, but it makes a big impact. In general, trail use went way up in 2020, and I think that's going to stay. I think once people discover trails, they tend to keep going back to them. So this assessment is going to help us to understand where the city needs to go with trails moving forward. So the outcome is going to be towards the end of this year that we can plan volunteer projects to make some of those specific improvements and then make recommendations to the council and administration for places that need city resources. And we talked about the track line phase 2 already, so I'll move on from that. So recommendations from the committee, Jay's going to talk about the ordinance. I think that's pretty straightforward. We basically went from naming specific neighborhoods, like block by block, literally like 22nd to 27th Street has to have a representative, to just saying that representatives, we need a certain number from the city, and we need to try and have committee members that represent each district from the city. So we just kind of opened up those terms and I think kind of modernized that verbiage there. And then to reset the sunset date for another 3 years. Another recommendation we have is to create a trail manager position within the next 2 years. I know this is not the easiest ask to create and fund a new government position, but it's been the position of the OTN for several years now that we need a paid professional trail coordinator. Mainly because things are changing. It used to be that you could have a handshake agreement for building a trail across private property, and that really doesn't fly anymore. And now that we've invested this much time and effort into building those trails, it's very uneasy to feel like those trails exist at the pleasure of the landowner and that they could just go away with no contractual guarantee that those trails are going to remain long term. So where things used to work on a handshake, I don't think that's working anymore. And the view of the OTN is that we need somebody to manage those agreements. And also things like that project I showed you in Taylor Canyon with the Forest Service building the retaining wall. That took weeks of very consistent coordination with the Forest Service. They're a big organization and they have a lot of hands into any project. And so asking a volunteer to carry out all that coordination is kind of pushing the limits, I think, of what we can expect volunteers to put forth. Volunteers are really good at showing up early in the morning, carrying heavy timbers and rocks and digging in the dirt in the heat all day, but getting volunteers to do strategic planning and long-term long-term program management is kind of a big ask from volunteers. So the view of the OTN is that we do need a city manager, a city trail manager position. And in fact, the general plan from 2019, actually, I quoted that there. It's unclear whether volunteer efforts and informal relationships will be able to meet future needs. So it was identified in the general plan, and I think it's something that the council needs to seriously consider. This is just a continuation of that kind of that topic. Kind of our key bullet point there is the OTN is currently providing 4,500 hours of trail work, which is equivalent to 2 full-time employees. And if we had a dedicated trails manager, we could go after bigger, more ambitious projects and actually leverage volunteers to get much more done than we currently can. I think this request is perhaps now satisfied. We wanted an update on the approval process, and I understand we're going to get to that this evening, so thank you. And that concludes the slideshow. So I appreciate y'all, and we look forward to continuing to build a great trail system for Ogden.
So how do you get your funding?
Currently, it's through grants, and some of the funding actually comes through city funds for things like trailheads and kiosks. Sometimes we can get funding through the city for that.
Okay.
So you mentioned that you're working with planning and Brandon and community and economic development. What do you what is needed from them, I guess?
We need a timeline, and we need an overall vision for what that business park is going to look like going forward, like in the next year or so, to understand where development can occur. And then we need to team with, lining up conceptual drawings, and then contractors or volunteers to build those
The second
features.
phase. Yeah.
I was just curious, how does your group work with the Trails Foundation of Northern Utah, and how does our structure sort of fit with theirs or not fit with theirs? And
it fits really good. So their current chair is Eric Manning, who formerly was a chair of the OTN. So we have a really good working relationship with them. The trail system training that we did last summer, we actually brought Trails Foundation in on that. About half the class was Trails Foundation, and about half the class was OTN and city employees. So, we have a good relationship with them, and we try and team with them on projects when we can.
As someone that uses that Bonneville Shoreline Trail up there in Taylor Canyon, thank you for the repairs you did. That was a good little slide off right there.
Yes.
And it was scary. So I appreciate it very much. It's much nicer.
Yeah.
I don't have to focus as hard when I'm running now.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Look out over the city.
Yeah, that was a good project.
So, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Okay.
All right.
Great.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you for that report.
Thank you. Thanks for everything.
Thank you. Brian was kind and humble, but that group rocks. They do a lot for our community. They do an outstanding job, and I agree with Stacy and Monty being rock stars too. They do a good job staffing that committee. But just so you know, that committee, it pretty well self-funds itself. Yeah, we do ramp grants, and they do some other things that come in from the city, but most of the time they do self-funding through fundraisers and some of their grant applications. So they do an excellent job, and I just want to give them hands off because Brian does an excellent job and the whole committee does. So we're very fortunate to have dedicated volunteers that are that passionate about something that benefits the community. Tonight, as well as the sunset and the annual report, we're addressing new changes in the ordinance that controls the committee. These changes were made because administration was requested to look at some of the wording in all of our committees citywide. And so most of the changes that you see in the ordinance that for your approval tonight is basically bringing this committee in line with the rest of the committees citywide. With the exceptions that this committee also requested that even though we have the wording in there that they represent all 4 municipal districts, that their hands aren't completely tied if that can't happen, but that all possibilities it will happen, and that the majority of the committee will be composed of Ogden City residents. So the changes that you see before you just reflect that we're bringing this committee in line with the rest of them. And as far as if there are any questions on that, or if there's any questions on the replacements, we do have one district that is not represented currently, and that's District 1. When we proposed the list of appointments and reappointments to the council some time ago, it was about 6 months ago, since we submitted those names, we have had one withdrawal for appointment. So it leaves us, even after tonight's vote from the council, it'll leave us one position open that the committee will work extra hard to make sure at least District 1 has representation. And then as we move into the future, we'll balance out the rest of the districts.
I'd be happy to help with that if I can.
We can always use all the help we can get.
Do some
I mean,
outreach.
finding someone.
I will find someone.
Because this committee is so active and they do such positive work in the community, they don't usually have a hard time getting people to want to volunteer. It's just getting people throughout our community instead of just in certain areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have 2 actions on this item. First is the proposed ordinance 2021-40 to amend the Ogden City Municipal Code.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we adopt ordinance 2021-40.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to adopt proposed ordinance 2021-40 and a second by Councilmember Chaburka. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes. Thank you. And
Chair, I will make a motion then that we also approve the committee appointments and reappointments as listed in the agenda.
Second.
thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to approve the committee appointments and reappointments, and a second by Vice Chair White. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
And I should add and thank those that have served and will continue to serve in the future. Appreciate their dedication.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Next up, we have the approval of minutes. We have the regular meeting of March 16th, 2021. Councilmember Chaburka.
Yes, Chair, I've reviewed those minutes and they are accurate to my recollection, and I propose we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Chaburka to approve the minutes and a second by Councilmember Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. We have one item listed under common consent, the Community Renewable Energy Act, Joint Resolution 2021-6, appointing board member and alternate to the Community Renewable Energy Agency.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we adopt the common consent agenda item.
I second it.
I just have a quick question. I apologize. Should I recuse myself since I'm the board member getting appointed?
I don't think
No?
so.
Okay, just checking. Just checking.
And who is the alternate?
My friend, Mara Brown.
Okay, thank you.
This is one of those situations where if you're not okay with it, then we shouldn't be okay with it.
Oh, no, I just didn't know if there was a conflict of interest of some sort. No.
Okay, thank you. I believe we had a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Stevens to adopt the item list under common consent, and this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes. Thank you. Next, sorry,
Oh, sorry. I'm just going to make a quick comment.
please do.
I just want to thank Mara and also thank Janine so much, and now Ross too, for helping out on this effort, because it will take a team of us to figure it all out. So thank you all.
Mr. Chair, also with respects to this, I hope that we all get those agenda notifications of when those meetings are, because I think they are open to the public, and I am, for one, am keenly interested in what happens in those board meetings. So,
Okay, we'll make a note.
There are several committees too. So we've offered to be on the program design committee, and then also the low income planning committee. And then there's proposed 2 other committees. One's a finance committee and a communications committee, I think. Sorry, that's just off the top of my head. So there'll be a lot of work happening.
Will those meetings be by Zoom then, I presume?
Yeah, I think you can call
It was a
in.
go-to meeting today, but they had some technical challenges, but then they figured it out.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a hybrid.
Okay, next up we have the CED Director Tom Christopoulos here to discuss the Northern Utah Venture Fund.
Chair, council members, thank you for your time. I will do my best to be brief and thorough. Is that possible? I'll try. Before you tonight, we have asked the council to consider authorizing an interlocal cooperative agreement with Weber State University, Ogden Weber Technical College, Davis County Council of Governments, and Davis Technical College and there is an amendment that we will need because it now will include Weber County as an addition, to create the Northern Utah Development Foundation, which will manage the Northern Utah Venture Fund. The fund seeks investors to start up promising new businesses in the community. The question that gets asked to me most often is why. And those are addressed pretty much in the interlocal cooperation agreement, and I will summarize those quickly for you. The university is committed to fulfilling an institutional mandate to teach and provide educational opportunities to fill students, as well as providing support for community economic development. The city is committed to furthering economic development and promoting new business enterprises. The council is committed to furthering economic development and promoting new business enterprises within the geographical limits of the council. The colleges are committed to fulfilling their institutional mandate to teach and provide educational opportunities to teach their full-time students, as well providing support for community economic development. And the parties recognize the need to strengthen and grow Northern Utah entrepreneurial ecosystems by supporting development and expansion of entrepreneurs, innovation, infrastructure, and financial networks. So with that, I thought I would briefly go over and explain a little bit. We have been in this process now for nearly 2 decades of developing capital resources. And in the audience, I have my friend Guy Latender, whose brainchild this particular interlocal agreement is in helping us develop one of the resources that we've had a very difficult time getting to, and that is the support of entrepreneurial ventures and capital support for bringing on good entrepreneurial ventures sufficient capital to move forward. We have had a number of different methods over the years that we've had, and I'll just remind you of some of them. We have banking that helps us with housing with the Synchrony loan, Golden West, DL Evans, contributions to the ELF fund, if you remember this year during COVID. We have federal resources that we use, CDBG grant funds, the EDA, various housing projects, Stonehill, Ogden. We started Startup Ogden, which was where we started our most nascent venture in the beginning of economic venture funding. And when I say nascent, it was very small. We did $500 grants and $1,500 grants to just get ideas out and to get those started. So we've been working on them. And we basically determined that what we were doing was not sufficient enough to get us going fast enough. And so we wanted to basically create an ecosystem and continue to create an ecosystem. It's not that one doesn't exist, but it's not fully mature. Capital acts as a catalyst or an accelerator to economic growth, and it intersects with our CED plan. And you probably remember, I hope I can use this thing. Hey, there we go. You probably remember this. We've seen it probably about 200 times over the last 10 years. So community capitalization is part of what we do in our basic strategies, our workforce development, our business attraction, and all of them intersect. One of the things that we've had the hardest time developing is the ecosystem that helps support, that grows out of what we do in our strategic areas, and having an entrepreneurial ecosystem. It's it's part of the foundational elements that communities have. So that ecosystem, as we go through, and I'll show you some of this. So these are some of the things that we've been doing to build and support the ecosystem the best way that we could, and to support home development and other things as we've gone through. So the resources, I think you all remember Startup Ogden, the Blue Loan Fund, the Wildcat Micro Fund that's currently out there, and now we would add another element. So what is in the ecosystem and why is it important? Ecosystems basically create community capital resources. Startup Ogden, the Wildcat Micro Fund. We support the micro funds, small business loan funds, that is now UCNS and was the Blue Fund, and now the Norsach Fund that we'd be creating. The other things that are in our ecosystems are also our university labs, accelerators, incubators, co-location spaces. Right now we have one of those, and we're attempting to get the other ones up and operating, and we've had great support from Weber State as we move through and try to figure out how to add this particular portion to that ecosystem. Obviously, there's human capital and getting people educated, which is one of the major roles that the university provides, and we do recruitment. As we've talked about in the past, recruitment now has gone not just from recruiting companies, but we also have to recruit individuals that can work in the companies that are here because we have so much demand. We also work through our business expansion and retention programs to make sure that we're meeting those. All of these are part of what we do. Lab and bench space, USTAR, which Weber State has taken over and is now operating and is developing, is an important part of what we do and what they're doing in order to add to the ecosystem. University Small Business Information Resource, SBIR and STTR. If you're not familiar with those are things that they're basically the entrepreneurial version of what happens at Hill Air Force Base. They're ideas to support the various missions that Hill Air Force Base has. And so this fund helps us in many ways in trying to shore up and develop that ecosystem. And that's kind of how the ecosystem works. It's a number of different things. So why is an ecosystem important? I'd like to kind of mention quickly to you a few names from the past, if you may know these, if you are familiar. WordPerfect, Novell, Evans and Sutherland, Silicon Graphics. Those go back to when I was in my 20s. Those are the companies that basically are the foundational elements of Silicon Slopes. Silicon Slopes is basically the most developed ecosystem that we have technologically. Those companies basically developed at a company called Qualcomm that went to Adobe, that beget Qualtrics, Vivint, Domo, Pluralsight, HealthFront Catalyst, Workfront, Matrix, Owlet, and a number of others of a list that's nearly 100 companies long. That's why an infrastructure becomes so very important. And because we're so early in the development of an ecosystem and trying to get our ecosystem more robust, we needed other ways of attracting ideas and getting those ideas brought forward and accelerating their development. This particular, the Norsach Fund, the vision is to basically do that, is to create impactful economic growth, have low cost, have many deals, look at as many as we possibly can, build an angel investor network. So while the city is putting up money, none of that money is invested primarily in the businesses themselves. That money is used to help structure the underlying foundation so that it can support what's going on and has an independent set of operations and managements. Our goal is to create great companies that will grow, and hopefully someday somebody will be standing here laying out the list of our particular companies that have grown in this area and have contributed to that ecosystem. The fund is our first attempt at funding and trying to organize things so that we can try to encourage more rapid development and finding stronger companies and making sure they're supported. And then obviously to generate returns to the investors that come into the fund. So investment strategies, so seed, pre-seed, in essence, those are companies that have ideas, have, they have a professional idea, they have potential for high returns, high growth. Evaluation of that company is important. Most of the things that we have worked on to date have been very small companies that are great in the sense that they can grow and become companies that provide the founder a job and a few other people. So Startup Ogden is that kind of particular situation. We've had about 120 jobs created out of that over the last 9 years coming out of Startup Ogden. And those jobs now are here and located in the city. This is basically to try to do, again, back to the notion that capital creates faster development and being able to do that. So we want to try to target 25 deals over 5 years. We expect 50% failure. That's the nature of what happens in venture funds. 10 exits, 75% will return. High diversification and low management costs. So we're looking for companies with strong management teams, large market with a clear path, capital efficient, and then the targets that we have there. So those are what we're trying to do. These are the people that are involved so that we can find the deals and kind of go through there. And this just explains the interaction that happens and how it all works together. I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time right now, but it's a fairly wide scope. We want to add value by mentoring. These are the participants: Hull Entrepreneurship, Weber State Concept Center, our own Ogden Small Business Loan Fund, not Load Fund, missed that one, Intercepts and Talent Connections, the Davis County East Station, Startup Ogden, using our opportunity zones and other things. And we will present some other additional incubation projects that we're also working on in the near future. So the governance is basically the foundation and directors, the economic development directors, and then the separate plan managers. So our representation, you can see is on the left in our participation, but then we also have direct participation from Weber State and other people that have more direct exposure. So our hope is that we can get this particular component of our capital strategy in our city underway and moving, and that we can come back over the years and report that we are making significant strides and that we're doing, that we're able to find more companies and create more jobs. One of the interesting things, and I think you've heard me talk about it before, is that companies that are created locally and grow locally, they have a significant higher contribution to the economy than companies that we recruit. And while we're very happy to have the companies that we recruit, their capital typically pays wages, which is very important, but then the wealth from that company typically goes back to their home. It doesn't stay here and reinvest in more companies. So the reason that Silicon, if you were to trace the investors in that kind of progression of companies that I gave you from WordPerfect all the way through to the end, you'll see a lot of the same people investing their money through those companies and making that progress. So this is our attempt to start making sure that we are concentrating on some of the good things that are coming and some of the things that are coming out in aerospace that we are that are growing to support the nearly 300 different programs that are at Hill Air Force Base that need new technology in order to complete. And I'm learning more about how I'm not quite sure how they're going to launch a missile without having some of the things responded to, but this is how they go about it. And many of the companies that we talk about, the primary jobs through GBSD, and we talk about as being those jobs, we haven't really talked about the secondary entrepreneurial jobs that will emerge from that effort. So with that, I'm willing to answer any questions, and I can volunteer Guy if you have any questions directly of him that you want to ask him. So.
Any questions for Tom? Any questions for Guy? Since he came with us tonight. I don't see any.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
And Guy.
And Guy, yep. Okay. If there's no further discussion, we would take a motion on that.
With that, I propose that we adopt proposed resolution 2021-13.
I'll second
approving
that.
the interlocal agreement.
Thank you. We have a motion by Vice Chair White to adopt proposed resolution 2021-13 and a second by Councilmember Heyer. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. Thank you. That passes. Next up is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic. I don't know if we have anybody joining us. I can't see it. That's why I'm asking.
We have this.
We ought to move to adjourn then.
Okay. If anyone would like to address the council, please, come on up. Just state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Gayleen Morley. I'm the one that sent that last letter to you. That's how I'm going to do it, because I've got, a lot of things I have to say. But hey, something did get accomplished. On 3460 Grand Avenue, that big tree, it was growing on the curve, and the sidewalk, it's gone. Thanks to you and whoever else. So far, it's gone. But the park situation still needs done. It's really sad over there on Jefferson Park. They'll use it for a bedroom. I'm not against the homeless, no, but I think one of these apartment places that go up around here, put them in there and let them work for the city like you have prisoners network for the city. I'm just suggesting that to you. Maybe something will come out of that, and I'll see it again with something working. Thanks, you guys.
And you're asking about the park on the Jefferson Park.
The Jefferson Park on 33rd and Grant.
Perfect. Okay.
I went by there this morning, and then there was 2 or 3 sleepers out on the ground. But in the table area, it's jam-packed. There's junk in that.
Okay.
I helped create that park. I went to a meeting on that years ago, and I'm not very happy with it. So I'm bringing it to you guys.
Great. Thanks
Okay?
so much.
Sure.
Yep. We're good. Okay. Looks like we have some hands raised. We'll go ahead and let them speak now. Go ahead, Heath. The time is now yours.
Hi, Heath Sato, Ogden resident. It's good to see everyone back from the break. My question tonight is pretty simple. It relates to a group that, according to the city website, advises the mayor and the city council on policies pertaining to city education programs relating to sustainable environmental practices and responsible stewardship of Ogden's natural resources. This committee, the Ogden Natural Resources and Sustainability Stewardship Committee, seems like it could have been very helpful during the city's recycling crisis last year, and particularly the recent discussions surrounding the Community Renewable Energy Act, also known as HB 411. I recently learned that they've been lacking enough members for a quorum and have only 5 members for the last 8 months. So they basically can't vote on anything and essentially have their hands tied, or so I've been told. My understanding also is that there are applicants for these positions on the committee that are only awaiting approval from the mayor, but these applications have just been sitting on his desk waiting. I wanted to see if we could press the mayor to please take a few moments to review the applications and fill these vacancies as soon as possible, so this committee can do its job and help the city make better, more informed choices. I know this same thing has happened with other committees and commissions where seats that have been applied for remain empty for overly long periods. I want to see more effort from this administration to make sure our volunteers for these committees and commissions are shown the respect they deserve for the time and efforts they put in to help our city, and are seen as more than just a box that needs to be checked for appearances. So please, let's get on these approvals. It matters. One last note, regarding looking up unclaimed property, you can help family and friends by looking them up on the system. Just as an example, I looked you guys up, and a few of you are owed money, so you might want to look at it. That's all. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you, Heath. Okay, next up we have former council member Amy Wicks. Go ahead, Amy. The time is yours.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Amy Wicks, Ogden resident. So I know some of you are aware of an incident that happened yesterday morning on Monday, August 2nd, around 11 a.m. on Fillmore. There were some photos shared with some council members from about approximately 24th and Fillmore. The weather yesterday morning was rainy. It was totally predicted. It was not a surprise. And it had rained substantially the night before. And there was a contractor. I'm assuming it was a contractor. I'd hate to think it was a city employee who would do this. But there was a disgusting display of a waste of taxpayer dollars. There was a contractor painting bike lanes and a center lane down Fillmore in the middle of this rainstorm. It was running off into the gutters, which go into our stormwater system, which goes into our rivers. And beyond just the environmental damage from it, it looks terrible. It won't last. And it really is just a tremendous waste of taxpayer dollars. I know that some council members are maybe following up with administration, but the contractor should be fined. They should not be paid for the shoddy work. and they should be prohibited from receiving future work from Ogden City. And so I know it sounds like you don't have an answer as far as, who was responsible for it. I filed a report with the Division of Water Quality with the state, and they will be asking for that information too. So hopefully administration can get back in a timely manner. And if they can't, then I guess I'll be filing a grandma request for that. But just know that follow-up needs to occur because this just really isn't acceptable. And I'll forward the photos to all of you so you can see it. But this really can't happen again. And we need to do a better job of making sure that our contractors, follow best practices for things like that, and also are not wasting precious taxpayer dollars to paint a street in the middle of the rain when you know it's going to run off and not be something that we can be proud of. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Okay. Seeing no other hands raised and no one else in the chambers. Nope. Sorry. You can talk to us after. That's great. Yeah. We'll go ahead and move on to comments from the mayor or administration.
Thank you, Chair Blair, members of the council. I did have just a couple quick comments. I have made a note of the public comment received tonight. We will certainly follow up on those comments. But I did want to express appreciation from the administration for Jay Ladder and Brian's presentation tonight on the Trails Committee, and also to appreciate the work that Monty Stewart and Stacy Olson do to staff that committee and all the city volunteers. It's a huge asset for the Ogden residents, and I just wanted to express appreciation for all their efforts on behalf of the administration. Also, I have a thank you with respect to that property return. That was a collaboration with the Utah Treasurer. That was also a collaboration with council staff and administrative staff. And within management services, we had IT staff and our utility billing employees that really prioritized that data gathering over their other work. And I know as public servants, I'm really looking forward to telling them the results of the efforts on that project. So I wanted to give a special shout out to all the employees who worked to make that happen. And then let's see. Lastly, I just wanted to invite everybody to come to the National Night Out Against Crime that goes until 8 p.m. tonight. It's a free event open to the public, and it's just a great way to build community. So that's all the comments I have tonight.
Thank you. Comments from council members?
I've got a comment.
Okay.
So related to the last comment made by the public regarding the paint on the streets, I don't even need to ask the question. I already know the answer because I know our public services staff and employees, and I guarantee you what happened was unacceptable to them. I guarantee you it wasn't our public service people or employees that did it. And I guarantee you that they will follow up on it. I don't have to ask because I know they have high standards. And so our public might not know that in the way that we know it, but I wanted to share the way I know it because I know it to be fact. And I hope the public understands that the people that work here have high standards. They expect a lot from their contractors, and I guarantee you they're going to get it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go next. Thank you. I just wanted to say how wonderful the Ogden Pride celebration was on Sunday. I read the proclamation on behalf of you all, and Vice Chair White was there as well, and it was just a great turnout. And I just want to, share my appreciation with you all for helping to support that event and for us to do the proclamation, because there were so many young people there that was so wonderful to see them, feeling that our community welcomes them for who they are, and everybody else too, but I especially have a soft spot for those young folks. So I just really appreciate that. Thank you.
I wore my pride blazer tonight. Yeah. Hey, can I go next?
Please.
I know, we're trying to. You know, I don't know. I don't even know where to start with this, but I'm a little bit mad right now from the standpoint of the Delta variant coming back, and I'm encouraging people to either wear their masks or get vaccinated because I'm really tired of this coronavirus, and in order to get rid of it, we have to do either vaccines or wear our masks, and I'm kind of tired of wearing my mask. So I just a push to make sure that if you don't know where to go to get a vaccine, contact me. I will try to find out the closest one to anyone that is willing to listen, and I will help you figure out how to get there because this can't drag on and on and on. So.
I think they can contact the health department.
Actually, I was
for
going to
that
mention
information.
that your regular provider should be able to help support you in getting the vaccine. That's kind of where it's been pushed back now to your regular healthcare provider should be able to help you.
Thanks.
CVS, Walgreens, and Smith's pharmacies, they're available. Walk in and get them.
Walk in and get it.
And your provider and the health department still does clinics, and you'll have to check with their website to see where and when. But they're doing them often. They made a report at the COG last night, and of course the volume was going way down, but they still do them. So there's no excuse not to get one if you want one.
I was going to say the Ogden School District's even offering them tomorrow evening at the evening registration for Mount Fort. So a lot of places are still trying to get everybody vaccinated.
Big employers are even having those clinics for their employers.
Wash your hands, stay safe, wear a mask. I'm back to saying that again.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Great. We have a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Nadolski. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.